Welcome to the Civic Pulse with David Bonior and Brian Brady. It's Sunday, April 26th. David, how are you doing? It's a day after I guess we had an attempted assassination plot by a lone goofball. How are you feeling and how are you doing?
Well, it's a little cloudy here and cold and windy, so it's kind of like it could be a fall day, but everything is green now, so that's kind of cool. I like green; it's my favorite color. So I'm okay. And you?
I got a little head cold, but I'm gonna, Michael Jordan
Yeah.
scored 45 points with a head cold. I think I can do a 30-minute talk show with a head cold.
Okay. They're nasty though, because they just kind of like they put you in a fog a little bit. I don't like head colds, but I get them maybe annually. So
Yeah, this is Vita got it before, so I had to pick it up. Let's take a little second. We're going to talk about a variety of issues today and just get your opinion on them.
Sure.
First, I got this attempted shooting happened at the Hilton in D.C., which is where I think it was John Hinckley shot President Reagan. What was that, 81 or 82? I'm forgetting, or 83.
It was about that time, yeah.
And I'd love to hear this was obviously a much less serious one because they caught the guy and looks like no one was seriously hurt.
Yeah.
But give me a story from the Reagan days. Where were you and how?
Well, I know exactly where I was because I was doing a book at that time, and I was doing the research on it at the National Archives, and the book was Vietnam Veteran: History of Neglect. So I was up in a carrel up in the third or fourth floor, I can't remember, of the National Archives, which is right off the mall. And I had headphones on, and I was watching film of the Vietnam War footage. And it was kind of freaky what happened. It's a kind of a cool story. I was watching this footage, and then also spliced into it was the assassination of John F. Kennedy.
Oh, wow.
They kind of linked Kennedy to the war, and then they showed this assassination in Dallas. And at almost the exact time that I was watching this, which brought memories back of watching it in my dorm, in the dorm TV room at school in '63. At the exact time I'm watching Reagan, watching the assassination of Kennedy, Reagan is being shot by Brinkley. And so somebody taps me on the shoulder because I had my headphones on. He said, take them off. So I took them off, and it was a librarian. He says, I just wanted to let you know that the President Reagan has just been shot. And I'm looking at Kennedy just being shot and Reagan just being shot. So that's where I was.
20. It's only 20 years later. Yeah. There we go again, right?
Here we go again. And but he recovered. He was a tough bird, Reagan was, and was in relatively good shape, and he did recover. And I think Hinckley is now out of confinement, although he has reporting requirements. Yeah. But yesterday was, it brought memories back. They weren't that long ago that President Trump was in Butler was shot, in the ear. And
although we never saw a hole in his ear.
No. But then you got also there was another attempt on his life from someone else who got sentenced pretty severely, as he should have been.
One in Florida, right? Yeah.
For that act in Florida. Yeah. So these political violence is gotten to be, it's always been there. I mean, if you look at the history of American politics, you've had attempts on president's life throughout our history. And they've often been about a generation apart, maybe 20 years apart. and
Yeah.
some of them have been fatal. But thank heavens that these things haven't been fatal recently, and we don't want that to happen. And so we've got to make sure we have good protections for people who are in public office. Now, just not the presidents. The members of Congress have become they're very unpopular members of Congress today. I just saw a number this weekend. 80% of the American people do not think much of the institution of the U.S. Congress, which is a number that's way, way up from when I was there. It was like, 37 to 40% were okay with the Congress. 56% didn't think much of it, but 80%, wow. Both parties, obviously.
You're also seeing with social media how easy it is to sort of whip up animus against, like,
Yeah,
AOC gets regular death threats, right?
right. Yeah,
Because there's these members of Congress who are very high voltage on social media, and they seem to draw a lot of. So I'm sure each of them has pretty significant security precautions.
yeah,
There's also on the internet, you're not as much on social media as me. There is a whole cottage industry around the Butler assassination attempt being faked.
yeah,
And I mean, we've had 50 years of the Kennedy assassination conspiracy theories, right? Which I'm not sure where you stand on that. If you think there was anybody else involved, but
yeah.
it seems like there's a whole business to.
Yeah, it grows mushrooms from there. Yeah, I understand that. But I think these things are real. Obviously,
Yeah,
uh, through television and through filming and that, you can, in our day and age, we can verify this quite readily. So,
yeah,
yeah, there's a lot of that, and your point to the fact that we have all this digitized world out there that your people are reaching many more people in it and creating the opportunities for this kind of activity. When I was in the Congress, I used to have my town hall meetings, and they could be quite raucous.
hmm
But they were no. I only had one time when someone, was threatening me, but that's after 26 years of the Congress and having these meetings quite
yeah,
regularly. Now, today I was just listening to a congressman from New York named Lawler,
hmm
Republican, and he says he actually was at the event last night where this occurred in Washington at the Hilton Hotel, and he was saying that he has town hall meetings still, but he checks people before they have double, triple checks. You don't get in there. You don't even get into the building unless you get your screen to do so. And then you
hmm
don't get into the room until you're screened to do so. And so the people are being more careful about it.
Oh yeah, and we saw Ilhan Omar get attacked at a town hall meeting, and obviously Gabby Giffords,
Yeah,
was that
yeah,
15, 20 years ago, horrible. Yeah, I do wonder if part of the problem on these conspiracy theories about Butler in particular, because that's all the rage now, is a lack of transparency um, about, because clearly it looks like Trump was probably hit by a shard of glass from a bullet, and yet he kind of decided to play it as a bullet wound, right? And
oh, he had blood on his face, So I
yeah,
suspect there are people saying, yeah, they put blood on him when he was down underneath.
yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I haven't read any of that, but I can imagine people
I
telling
do
that.
think they tend to button up when it's a conservative shooter, whether that's Charlie Kirk's shooter or the kid in Pennsylvania. You tend to get this DOJ and this FBI are so partisan, they tend to withhold more info, and then that feeds conspiracy theories.
Yeah,
Whereas the guy in Florida was kind of a left wing kook, and you know a lot more about him, like he was in the Ukraine and things. So I think a lot of the conspiracy, you're just always going to have the conspiracies, but more transparency does usually help. And
yeah.
seeing that from this White House. I also have to say that my basketball game was interrupted by Donald Trump last night, and I was not happy about it because
Yeah.
the Chicago guy went for 43 points. Ayo Dosunmu out of the blue and beat the Nuggets. But I don't usually listen to President Trump now for longer than like 10-second clips. And I sat there and listened for about 3 minutes as he talked about the incident. And I don't know if you've had this. I was just surprised how he's never been a very thoughtful, rational, logical guy. But I was surprised by how incoherent he was and how, like, he really felt like the older family member who you're
Yeah.
wondering, do you got to take away the car keys from? He just started talking about the
Yeah,
ballroom.
I don't have that feeling about him like you do, but I have seen him, as a lot of Americans have, uh, on television, on film, from press conferences and that he's had in his office where he's nodding off,
Exactly. Yeah.
and and trying to come back and then nodding off again. Well, I must tell you, I have done the same thing. So, I mean, when I'm really tired and I struggle to stay awake, but I try to get enough sleep to where I'm not that tired. But when you reach 80, your body changes. It's just part of living and then actually dying. So you're moving in that direction, and things happen. And so I've heard what you have just said from many other people, and I just think his bombastic way is uh, throws people off too. They think maybe he's really lost it for sure. Well, I don't know that he's really lost it. I think he's that way personality wise, which I think is sad.
Yeah, but that zigzag. I mean, he's never. I've never been a linear person, but like his conversation points, you can't really map or scaffold. It's just
Yeah,
he's got these hobby horses, his ballroom. He just dances around his sort of five
right.
hobby horses, no matter what. He was supposed to talk about the shooting last night, and he's just all over the map. He's talking
Right.
about his ballroom. Uh,
Yeah.
so he
Wouldn't
was
have happened in the
surprisingly generous
ballroom.
with the
Yeah.
White House press corps, who he's
Yeah.
usually insulting, right?
Right.
So, and I guess that's serious news, but current events news. Where is this Iran war? We seem to be at a pause stalemate, and
Well,
people are looking for an honorable exit strategy. And that's what the White House seems to be looking for.
well, it's where we thought it would be when we discussed this the last couple of shows that we've been on. It's they don't know what they're doing, frankly, and
Yeah.
the president particularly. I mean, he has no concepts of history or and and in some sense of decency when he takes on warriors and belittles them and criticizes them. People who are trying to defend their countries. I mean, that like you did with McCain and other people. It's just sad. It's tragic, and it makes me angry actually. But so where are we with this war? Well, we shouldn't have been in this war, but now we are, and thousands of people have lost their lives. If you take what's happened in the Gulf and Lebanon as well as Iran, which is almost a package because we were operating together with Netanyahu and Israel on this. It's just been a real tragedy and destabilizing, and we've got to get out of it.
Mm-hmm.
He knows politically, President Trump knows politically, he's got to get out of it because he's in bad shape. I mean, it's bad enough if you've got, a war going on that the people don't understand and don't want, which he has. You're losing people in that war. When your economy is tanking because of the war as a result of the increased costs of gas and oil, and what
Mm-hmm.
that does to all kinds of products and certainly the gas pump. So people are not happy about that. And then you have the corruption piece, which is just out of control. I don't think it's ever been this bad in the administration than it is in this particular administration. So the Trump family, making literally
Billions.
hundreds of millions, if not billions, of dollars on this.
I mean,
And
Trump's net worth has gone from 1 billion to 6 to 7 billion in a year and a half, right?
yeah, so it's really tragic, and I think they'll pay the price for it, as they should.
if Democrats are smart about their election strategy, stay on corruption, stay on the economy as much as
That's right. Just stay on those issues.
Yeah.
And
the issue that might blow up the Democratic chances is the Middle East and the split over Israel and Gaza, right? You have 2,700 people dead in Lebanon, and that's our bombs and our
right.
we give to Israel a lot of the times. And there's still a very strong Democratic support for arming Israel. Although it's slowly eroding. You're starting to see the majority of Democrats.
It is eroding, yes, especially with younger people.
Yeah, in the polling. I think 40 Democratic senators, I think, voted not to give kind of unlimited arms to Israel in the last vote, which was a really
huge difference from when I was there. We wouldn't even had the vote because it was, it was just a given. But yeah, big difference.
Staying on foreign policy for a little bit, really good news for our freedom folks in Ukraine who are on the front line.
Yeah,
$90 billion from the EU,
right,
and can survive another year maybe because of this, right?
Well, they won't survive another year. The question is whether the Russians will survive another year.
What are you hearing on the Russian side? Yeah, I hear
they've got a lot of problems with their economy now. There's a lot of people are upset and they're expressing themselves more. That's a kind of a slippery slope over there. You got to go very slowly and carefully so you don't end up in prison or poisoned or whatever they do to them over there. So I think I think the Russians are in real trouble. They're not making up any ground. They're losing ground. In fact, they lost 2 or 3 very small villages, but they did lose them. That they took them and then they couldn't hold them. Yep. And this oil thing is a mixed bag for them. So I think their Ukrainians are moving in the right direction. As I mentioned on the show a couple of times in the last 3 months, they have new weapons in Ukraine. They have, of course, they've sustained themselves because of their technology expertise with drones. And, they have a drone now that is pretty good at destabilizing these Shahed missiles that come out of Iran. And so they've been giving it away, not giving it away, but sharing it with the other countries that Iran has attacked in the Gulf. Mm-hmm. And, they're increasing the production in their own country of weapons that they need to be self-sustaining. And they've come from 20% maybe to 60%. That's just 4 years, 5 years. So there's a lot of good things that are happening for Ukraine, and they will survive this. And as I've said before, they not only will survive it, but they will come out of this as a European power, major power. Germany, France, kind of major power. And I think that the European Union, as you just pointed out, providing this resources that have been kind of denied to Ukraine because under the EU, you need pretty much unanimous consent among all your members for this to flow. And the president of Hungary, Orban, was the problem.
Was the holdup,
Holdup. So he let it go. He released it after he lost his election last month, and or this month actually, a few weeks ago. And so the money is starting to flow now, and that's a significant help.
Staying on foreign policy a little bit, Macron goes to China, and then on the way back talks to reporters and says basically, everyone's against Europe right now, and maybe we need to form our own alliances, right? Really, talks honestly about the United States being not necessarily our friend these days. We also have an NBC News story that comes out that there was billions of dollars damage on U.S. air bases by Iran that basically the Trump administration has covered up and hasn't released information on. All signs are pointing towards this, the great superpower being extremely weakened now, and us moving to this multipolar world that Carney, the Prime Minister of Canada talks about, those mid-sized countries.
And he won a big election just recently.
He won a big election. And so my big question for you is this maybe a good thing, to have a more multipolar world than a U.S. as the alpha dog? Clearly, is it possibly good for world peace in the end that we're not so strong?
Well, I'm not going to say that, but the answer to your question is yes. I'm glad that the Europeans are doing more. My whole career, I implored them to do more, and the Japanese as well. Mm-hmm. But now they need to provide for their own defense better, and they are doing so. I mean, they're coming up from 2%, and they're trying to reach 5%, and they better hurry up, though. That's the whole question here is you better do it while you can do it. And they need Ukraine more than Ukraine needs them in some ways. So it's Ukraine is the largest physically country in Europe. It's a big place. It's like Texas. And so about the same square miles, thousands of square miles. So, the Ukraine is a very significant and important player and will continue to be. And they have, through their resilience, courage, and technological expertise, brought themselves to the attention of the world community with great leadership under Zelensky. He's had some bad days. We all have our bad days, but he's a master.
Yeah.
And so I'm confident that the Ukrainians are going to be okay, and they're going to move. It's going to keep moving in the right direction for them, and it's not moving in the right direction for Russia right now. Their people are anxious. Their hierarchy, the people who are at the very top, who have made all the money in that, they're anxious too.
Mm-hmm.
There's a piece in the New York Times this morning that people might want to read about that. It's very good. And so you put those three things together, and we'll see what happens. But people are,
Let's cross fingers that this that Russia's on more of a house of cards than we even realize. The Soviet Union collapsed awful fast once it started to collapse, and maybe the Putin corruption house. Maybe that collapses faster than we think. Although there's also risks of that collapsing so fast as well.
Yeah. Well, you don't know what you're going to get. That's always the problem.
It can get worse.
But it's pretty hard to be worse than Putin, though.
What?
It's pretty difficult to be worse.
Yeah. He's a pretty diabolical guy.
He's a diabolical man.
Let's shift back to the U.S. politics for our last question of the day. And I want you to put on your Republican hat, pretend you're Ron DeSantis. And you want to win the midterms. Do you redistrict your state and try and grab 3 to 5 more seats for Republicans? And I'm asking you to take this from a DeSantis point of view, and then we'll do the Democratic point of view.
Oh, okay. Well, I think he probably will, because I think he knows still that even though he reads these polling numbers, of course, like we all do, and he was defeated by Trump. But he knows that Trump has a huge base of support in his state. So I think he will do it. I think they will go ahead and they'll try to change the district lines, although the state Senate in Florida is giving him a hard time, the governor, DeSantis, because that means that there will be other congressional districts that are giving, in order to spread out the goodies to everybody, they're taking from my district and making me more vulnerable.
Yes.
So they don't like that, and they're fighting it, and they've fought it successfully so far. But if the governor insists, well, my guess is that they're going to do this, and but they're getting more pushback on it internally than they did in Virginia or in California, where we had really big victories to try to block what the governor of Texas did in his state. He started it, and Trump started it by saying he wanted to do this all-out war in terms of districts, and now we're at the point where we kind of have parity between both sides, it's having voted, but it could be tipped a little bit with Florida, but not enough to, I think, make a huge difference. We're talking 2, maybe 3 seats.
I haven't always been a Hakeem Jeffries fan, and I think you are a little bit on the fence there too. But he's won back a little bit of cred with the Virginia redistricting and helping guide that, shepherd that. And then I think his label for Texas, the dummy mander, because now it looks like a couple of those seats they redistricted might be won by Democrats now.
Yeah, that's what you're going to see, and all over. I think. I mean, even the Democrats could find that the case in maybe California.
It looks like there's at least a +10 switch, right, from 24 into this midterm, and so you do the math there, and a lot of those Republican wins by 5 points become very toss-up races.
Right.
Well,
there's a lot of this, not a lot, but enough districts that the president, Trump, only won by 2%. And now you have the new numbers right now. This all changes, of course, it fluctuates. But you have the new numbers right now that show that Democrats in a generic polling against Republicans are ahead by 6%. So if you got a district that's, if you're winning with 55%, you should be really nervous.
Yeah, as you know, though, you still need to run a good candidate. If you don't have that,
yeah, exactly
about it. Which, I'm going to add one more topic to our list before we jump, just because he's been in the news and trying desperately to be taken seriously again, and he has Chicago roots. Rahm Emanuel, kind of hated by progressive organizers in Chicago who I roll with, because he came into Chicago kind of like a swashbuckler and was so arrogant. And then he also hid a police tape of a young kid being shot to death by the police.
Yeah.
So he's probably the least popular politician in Chicago in many ways, but he was a good election. He did put up a lot of good candidates and won back the House. What was it, 06?
Yeah.
The House. What's your take on Emanuel? And I also saw he flipped a little bit on Israel lately to try and get more in line with the progressive base. And clearly he wants to make a run for president.
Well, he's running for president. I think he's pretty open about that. And
yeah,
you see him on TV a lot. And I think he's, who knows how people, the difference between people on TV and in real life. He was pretty, you said it, I'll use the word you said, arrogant type of a person. Although I must say that I think when I've seen him lately, I didn't detect that arrogance that swagger that he used to have.
Yeah.
So that really makes me think he's running for president. But he's a smart politician, though.
I always would bring young people and youth councils into rooms with decision makers, and I will say this about Emanuel: he was really good with young people, which to me shows that beneath the bluster, he's got the charisma gene. Like when you actually meet him, and he's smart and charismatic, but he definitely has his strong. I don't think he doesn't have a strong support on the left of the party. That's for sure.
No, he's got a lot of baggage in that.
He's got a lot of baggage. We're going to tackle, next show, 2 weeks from now, we're going to tackle AI, because I think AI is sort of the hidden monster story that we're not able to talk enough about because of being in crisis in our democracy. But this might be the biggest news story of our generation.
I agree with you. And I think, I have mixed feelings about it. And you help get me to understand some things, and other people, I'm trying to figure it all out like everybody else. But you know, all around the country now, you're having these fights with regard to these centers, cooling centers, or I don't know.
Data centers. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
data centers. Excuse me. Yeah, and we have one out right out in this county that I'm in right now in Maryland, and so it's interesting and important issue. And what lies ahead with all of this can be very scary, but it can also be exciting in some ways. That's the problem, trying to find that balance and having the regulations in place like we did not do
Yes.
with the internet and all of that, social media, excuse me. So yeah, we should talk about it more. I think it would.
We'll bring a younger, hipper, smarter guest on with us.
Right. Yeah.
Young attorney I know who works in the AI space. So he'll teach us a little bit about it, and then
Well, we've had 2 or 3 people that know something about this already on the show, and
That's true. Yeah.
I've learned things from them. Yeah.
Yeah. So let's keep exploring that, and then I think this corruption piece. We had a whole show planned around Trump's corruption. And we decided to give him the day off because of the shooting.
Yeah.
He got lucky. We had 10 different corruption scandals, and we were going to rank them. But
they're doozies too. They're real doozies. We're not talking nickels and dimes here.
Donald, we gave you a couple-week break on that. The only time we'll ever give you a break. Hey, David, great to hang out with you. And,
good to see you, Brian. And
in a couple weeks. Take care.
Have a great week. You too. Bye-bye.